Today's episode is with an entrepreneur, restaurateur, thinker, a guy who I've had the pleasure of jamming with on multiple occasions. This is actually, I think, our third podcast together. But every time I talk to him, I always leave with my eyes a little wider, my mind a little more open, and gained a fresh perspective. Had a lot of fun in this conversation. I think you guys are going to enjoy tuning in. Today's episode is with Sherif.
There is a inverse relationship between like truth and popularity. Like the more true you are, the more unpopular you're gonna be. You know, the more popular you are, the more you're gonna have to like say things to appease the masses or the higher ups. And you're seeing that now with celebrities is like all their shit's coming out.
Exposed.
They're being exposed because there was a tremendous decades worth of self-abandonment that they had to do in order to please the higher ups.
100%.
Right? Yeah. And so I saw it.
They're playing the game, just trying to get it to the next thing. Like,
so that's part why I don't like being a public figure. Like, of course, I love the attention. That's great. But like, I don't want him to play the game. I don't want my life to be lived for anyone other than me.
And you just feel like it was putting you in a position where you're like, oh, they're expecting me to behave this way, or
they would put. And are we recording this?
Oh yeah, okay. We're just going.
We're already rolling.
Yeah, we're just going. Yeah.
Yo, like I remember like one woman in particular who's a friend of mine, not just a troll. Like she's a friend of mine. I've consulted her out to build stuff for our shop, and she said, "You're a business owner. You're not supposed to da 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 da."
Oh,
like,
wow.
right? So it's like
box you in.
You've already put a label on me, and like this is how you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to say that you're like, because my statement was that I'm not going to discriminate against people who are not vaccinated, and I'm not going to require masks. She's like, "You're a business owner. You're supposed to do X, Y, and Z." I'm like, I mean, you know. And then before I had a chance to respond, she had deleted her comment. But I was like, I'm not a business owner. That's just something that I do. That's not my identity.
Like
I'm more than that. I am. Like I wouldn't say I am Egyptian or I am like these are just these like
aspects of who I am.
Yeah, they're aspects. You know, it's true that I own a business, but I'm more of a business. I'm more a custodian of my business than I am an owner of a business. Like meaning I take the revenue that comes in and then I make sure that I reinvest it in the company. I'm managing the business rather than like I'm some like CEO of some Fortune 500 company. I'm like a cafe owner. Like that's it. It's like kind of And so I think I can like be entitled to say like to have opinions about, you know, and these are not political opinions. When I say I'm not going to discriminate against people who are not vaccinated or require masks, that's not me getting into politics. That's me being in health and wellness as I've been for 2 decades, and then politics rearing its head into my industry.
They like, try to cross-pollinate.
I'm not getting into your world. You're getting into mine, and I'm protecting mine.
This doesn't have to become a policy discussion.
Exactly.
That's tough, man. That's interesting. But when people look at you as like, they're putting this pressure on you of trying to make you back to that attention thing. Like you have this attention, you have to be on the right team or whatever it is.
That's what I think they're trying to say without saying it. Is that you have, as a business owner, there are more eyes on you. And so then you can shape culture.
You're a role model.
And that's true, which is why I'm speaking. But you like that when you don't want to hear my ideas. You want to hear your own ideas coming out of my mouth. But
you want me to be a mirror, not a creator.
Because if people who can shape culture, people who have a platform, start to say things contrary to what you believe, now you take that as an indictment on yourself and your identity. So you're assuming your identity is these things and projecting that my identity is these things. It's not true. Like if you tell me that you are pro like allopathic medicine and prescriptions and all of these things, I'm not going to get offended by that. It's likely because you've had a life experience that has shown a lot of success in going and getting prescriptions and having them fix you. And so that is true. So every truth is a half truth. Every truth is nuanced. It's true that allopathic prescriptions and medicines and maybe even vaccines have worked for you if you say that they have. So I'm not going to get offended if you say that they work I believe that they
Go
don't.
for it, yeah.
That's my belief
Yeah.
and my life experience and my families and all of the emails that I'm getting on a daily basis from customers who are being in the holistic health industry for decades. Actually corroborate that it doesn't work. So it's not a matter of right and wrong.
No, not at all.
There is an absolute truth, but also there is a lot of subjective truth at the same time.
And just being able to have the conversation, understand different perspectives, like you got to leave room for that. This whole like walled approach of like, I'm right, you are wrong, see you later, I don't like you anymore. It's like, what are we doing here, folks? Like,
so if I want to get like really philosophical, what that comes from, what you just said, this I'm right, wrong, we can't have a conversation, is because everyone who's discussing if you're right or wrong is confused. No one can see the whole picture.
We're all trying to figure it out.
And so can you zoom out? If you can zoom out, like if you were to see two fish fighting in a fish bowl. Three, like what are those beta, whatever?
The beta fish.
The beta fish, how they would fight in like I'm picturing like a fish bowl is like 5-6 beta fish and they're all ripping each other's heads off, right? And they're all
they
like
used to do the ones the kids, they would put the divider in and savage little like 8-year-old pull the divider out.
Right? That's so the kid that's pulling out the divider, that's our government. Right? They're like, oh yeah, look at these motherfuckers. And then they're like, here's us, these stupid beta fish. And we're like arguing over right and wrong. We have no idea that there is literally an invisible hand. And in economics, they even call it, I was an econ major, they even call the mysterious force that actually changes the economic structure, like, and bails you out when shit's wrong. They call it the invisible hand. They're not even lying to us. It's legit in econ, it's a term. So this invisible hand is like the boy that's pulling out the divider in the beta fish bowl. And then we're over here like these dumbass beta fish fighting, not realizing that A, we're in a bowl, B, there's a divider, C, there's someone who's pulling out the divider with the intent of getting chaos, creating chaos for entertainment purposes, for division purposes, and for control purposes, right? Like, and we are sitting here caught in the micro because we haven't zoomed out and seen the big picture, right? And so now, how do I explain that on social media? You can't. I mean, maybe you can, but it's going to take someone like you who can like cut up a bunch of videos, and I'm not.
It's
that's not
take
my
a couple
world.
Days. It's gonna,
I'm not a creator, so like I'm like a philosopher, right? That's You're
a creator in your own right, though. I would say, you know,
I'm not a digital creator.
Not a digital creator.
We are all creators in our own right.
Sure,
actually, like if we're talking about identity, if you're gonna give me an identity, that's what I want to be as a creator. I'm a creator of stuff. I'm a creator of relationships. I'm a creator of anything about humanity. Right?
I like
I'm a creator of conserving humanity in an age where the digital agenda is being pushed. You know, I'm a creator of all things nature. I'm a supporter and proponent of all things nature. Right? And if you're gonna define me as that. Because that's pretty much all encompassing. And that's every aspect of my personality, my life has to do
a little more holistic.
With, exactly. For sure. My shoes are for a natural, natural shaped shoes. My clothing, like every little thing about me is about nature, and everything about my business is
100%.
presenting that to people. And if you don't fuck with it, we're not mandating our business. Like mandating is insanity to me. Mandating is enmeshment. It's enmeshment. It's in psychology, enmeshment is like when you make someone else emotionally responsible for your own shit that you haven't worked through. And that's what mandating is we're making other people responsible for stuff that like and like you're guilting and shaming them into, well, what if we have behavior that's working? And like, now I understand it's because people are being told that, but remember those people that are telling you, those are the boys with the divider and the, let's look at the
where'd
source.
That come from?
Right. They're not just people who are not feeding us and making sure we're taken care of. Like Santa Claus does not exist. Your government is a for-profit corporation. And it's not that they want you to die. It's not that the government wants you to die. It's that they want to make profit. And if you do die, they don't care. It's not that their preference is that you die. It's that it's apathy.
Occupational hazard.
Yes,
what
exactly.
we do. If it happens, if it happens,
as long as we can, sweep it under the rug. And so then the whistleblowers, like Snowden and like the big level whistleblowers, they get, deported or whatever,
exiled,
and
basically.
ostracized and excommunicated.
Yeah.
And then the small scale whistleblowers, like community members, are seen as the threat. Right? Like to me, it's wow. You have a pandemic of health and wellness, and the two things that we need the most are human connection and to be conscious of what we put in our body. Yeah. And what was the prescription?
Oh my gosh.
The opposite of human connection, which is
see you later.
Distance. Yeah. Distance yourself.
Hide yourself. Hide your kids. Hide your wife.
Yeah. Don't socialize. If your grandma's on the deathbed, you can't go near. Do not go near the sun. Do not go near the ocean. Do not go near a gym. But you can go to the bars. That's cool. You can go to the big department stores. That's
whatever
totally
the
fine.
Necessary businesses were.
Beers and donuts will give that to you for free.
Yeah.
Like if I could create the worst prescription to deal with this pandemic, it would have been what Fauci created. And if I could create the best, which I did, the best possible thing for this particular virus was zinc. So that's coming from like whole plant foods. I mean, not plant foods, animal foods, like oysters, seafood, meats, and then vitamin D, sun. Right? That's all now been proven.
For sure.
So sun, and like it's a big cardiovascular issue. So the ventilators have been proven to be a disaster. So it's like not only did they not help, but they are now it's showing that they actually killed people. And so then the opposite of that would be like learning your own breath and cardio.
Or just exercise.
I mean, exactly.
Honestly.
Like learning to pump that heart, running. Yeah. Right. And then, so that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I got COVID. I mean, I don't think I ever got COVID, but I did lose my taste and smell and was really sick one day. So then
probably had something hit
you. So I got
you.
tested and it tested negative. Yeah. And so either I got it and I kicked it in 24 hours or I've never had it. And then when I go around my family, I was with them for Christmas last year and I was the only one who's not vaccinated. Yeah. Everyone got COVID except for me. Wow. And I keep hearing that everywhere. Yeah. It's not only were the unvaccinated not the threat you thought that they were, but I keep seeing
they became like more exposed
that they are more, they have a better immunity because they have natural immunity than the immunity offered by the medicine and then, or the vaccine. And then also I'm seeing that like, that it's like I'm seeing that people are more likely to contract it if you've had the vaccine. And that's not backed by any scientific study. So I should say that here before I'm like making some false claim. Okay. But that's what I've observed in my own.
I get it. At least like, anecdotally, like in your world.
That's in my world. That's what I've noticed. Yeah. And so.
It's just interesting to me too, like how most things in life, I feel like there's multiple ways to go about the solution for it. I mean, insert anything.
That's my whole thing.
Yeah. And why did the discussion become so
black and white,
one-sided? Yes. It's like,
and so that I don't want to keep having the vax versus anti-vax conversation.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
because that's the fish again fighting in the bowl.
I know,
right? Yeah. So you're right. It shouldn't be a black and white thing. We need to ask ourselves, who is it that's making the culture have a black and white argument over vaccines, or black and white was at the same time we had a black and white, literal black and white race argument that was happening during Floyd, while the black and white quote unquote thing was happening. So there was like divisive thing after divisive thing that are all happening. And what was it? It was an election year as well. Yeah. Right. And so, and then 4 years before that, we had the Ferguson riots was an election year as well. Yeah. And here we are in election
even
year.
Even in Raleigh downtown, we had our own, so.
And every 4 years I come out like Groundhog Day and I make a lot of noise on social media like I'm going to do now.
I'm back.
And I sound the alarm. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. I get canceled. My shit actually turns out to be true. I come back 4 years later and another time.
How to do it again,
like,
you motherfuckers.
I'm like fucking Paul Revere. Like, yo, the government is coming.
The British are coming.
Like Paul Revere every 4 years.
What was the experience like kind of, because you guys are like in Raleigh. Y'all are downtown, like in the trenches. Dude. I mean, what was that like? I don't think I've really talked to anyone who was in.
I didn't realize how bad it affected me. I got in the car after it was all over and I drove for 4,000 miles. I drove all over the country. I drove until I ended up in San Francisco.
No way.
During COVID after the riots. Yeah. But when I go back,
because you were there, like you went to the shop and you were.
I was in it, yo.
Yeah.
We were getting hit with gas. Like, what is it? The canisters from
tear
SWAT?
gas?
Tear gas.
Yeah.
We're getting hit with tear gas. So. I was filming it and putting it on social media to just show people, yo.
I think I saw a clip of you on the news or something. You talked to some, or maybe it was.
Yeah, maybe? I did. I was on the news, and they were like kind of like the media was chopping it up to serve this agenda of like Black people are victims, and then they're angry, and that the left is going to save them and all this stuff, and like. I'm not getting into any of that, but let me just talk. Instead of that, I'll talk about what I observed. I observed that the people who were breaking windows and destroying property in downtown Raleigh were proportionally not Black. They were probably 95% white. They're also really young. Like they look like they were 18 to like 23, very young, like kids, right?
Dang.
And then so I was like, that's weird. And then they also like, and so then they attempted to throw bricks and stuff through our, and we stopped them, like maybe me and a few guys, we stopped. So we were like, us and Corcus, we put some people in front of Corcus, and they were only 2 shops that didn't get hit. Because we had physical people like blocking. We stopped people like in mid brick throw. We would like, and then we would kind of like outnumber them and they would back off.
Wow.
One guy felt so bad. He was a young kid. He was like, this has tie over to what I think is happening right now.
Yeah.
So one, they were planting bricks. There was a pallet of bricks put in front of Jimmy John's and Happy and Hale.
No way.
There was a pallet of bricks put in front of my condo, which is at Lincoln Theater. And then and then they would be conveniently doing construction and like accidentally left some bricks there. So the whole riot is now, in retrospect, you could see how it was staged. It was all orchestrated. So now we know that it was George Soros and he had all this money and he paid these young kids to take buses in from out of town. One of these kids I met.
What was up with that?
He sees that, he's like, why are you protecting this store? And I was like, it's my fucking store.
It's my business,
and
bro.
He was like, wait, you're the owner here? And I was like, yeah. And I could see this young kid's face just drop. Like it humanized what he was doing for a moment.
That's kind of like goosebumps.
And he was just like, wait, this is your store? And I'm like, yeah, what are y'all doing? He's like, man, I'm in from out of town. He was like, I don't know. They just gave us this paper and like the paper said like meet at like 5 o'clock and like begin at 9.
What?
And then he was like, I was like, what, are you getting paid for this? And he's like, yeah. And he pulls out all this money and he was like $300 and he's like, man, I'm so sorry. And he gives it to me. And I was like, and then he was like, take it. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm sorry. I put it in my pocket. I didn't look at it because there was so much violent, like crazy shit happening. So I put it, and sure enough, I went like later that night when I was home, it was $300 and people were getting paid that number in cash to go destroy.
Jeez.
So they were busing kids in, paying them $300 cash to destroy this town because they wouldn't do, like, local people are going to be like, oh, I know the Raleigh Times. I know, like, they're not going to go throw
these are
bricks.
my people.
Right. But if you get people from outside, they don't have this emotional tie, right? They don't have this connection. So that's what they were doing. They imported the bricks. They implanted the bricks in strategic locations and also at the Capitol building. And I got all this. I filmed it and I put all of this on social media. As it was happening, I was showing all of it, right? And then I was showing like that it was like all these white people. So like white people, not saying that white people are bad. I'm saying that they had no interest or vested interest in the actual argument over race. This didn't have to do with race. This had to do with making some money, $300 in cash to go fuck up some stuff and have fun. And they were instructed not to get violent with anybody, not to like, so then when me and my guys were like ready to have a physical argument, they would fall back because they were instructed to do that. So it was like very specific. Now, why I bring this up? Because now the border in the southern border of Mexico is being open, and you might have seen some stuff where do you see that thing where that Muslim, and I'm Muslim by the way, but you see this thing where this guy was like, oh, you're gonna know who I am, and then like they use AI to understand like who he was, and then it was like. He's like a legit
someone who
terrorist.
Came across the border.
And like
snap,
they were like, "What are you doing over the border?"
I've just seen like some random stuff at the gym about like 7 million.
And it might be a false flag, that Muslim thing that I'm bringing up. Who knows? But what I'm saying is, the people who are coming over the border are not just Mexican. There's Africans, there's Muslims, there's Asian, there's a lot of Chinese. to me, this reeks of my firsthand personal experience of busing in young kids and paying them $300.
I see what you're saying.
They're mercenaries.
Yeah.
Do you know a mercenary is when you get soldiers from other armies to fight in your army? Why do you do that? Because of they don't have the emotional. A mercenary is going to kill American civilians, no problem. But like if you go to the army right now and then your orders are go open fire on civilians, you're going to have type of
for sure.
Some type of crisis and be like, maybe I'm not going to do it or whatever. Yeah. But a mercenary is not going to take issue with that. Yeah. Right. They were given $5,000, $10,000. They were.
I get what you're saying. Right. Yeah.
That's why people hire mercenaries when they're trying to overthrow allow their own government to be overthrown. Something is happening right now. I'm not going to make any claims, but I'm saying that the cookie crumbs resemble that of 4 years ago.
Yeah, it feels a little.
But it's much larger.
Yeah.
Right? And so then there's going to be another false flag.
Yeah.
So
what did you think the conversation was like locally, just in terms of other people in the community or what you even saw online after the riots? I mean, did you feel like people were all driving in the narrative that this was a race thing, or did you feel like there was?
I think that there was a lot of unnecessary white shame, white guilt, and then like the problem with the message of the liberal left, and I'm not saying the right is good or better, but is that it convinces white people to be ashamed of being white, and it convinces black people that they're victims, and that if things externally don't change, they're gonna be disempowered for the rest of their lives.
Okay.
Like, and I bought that hook, line, and sinker when I was a person of color. I would go in and get approved for a loan for my condo, I remember, and I got rejected, and I had long hair, and sometimes I would have dreadlocks. Yeah. And I'd be like, yo, it's because of my skin. And I'm not even like that dark, but it was just like, I would allow that left lean. I was a liberal, and like I would allow that. And then I would get rejected again and get rejected again. Well, these days I'm getting loans for millions of dollars for different properties and businesses. And it's like, my color of my skin has not changed. Maybe it's because I stopped seeing myself as a victim and stopped drinking the Kool-Aid of the outside world is this and this and this. In order for me to be successful, then I need to. Now that doesn't mean racism doesn't exist, and it doesn't, like I said, all truths are half truths. So there's nuance. So one person might live in a place that's going to experience a lot more racism, this and that.
For sure.
And everyone who says this is what's happening for me, it's true. I'm not arguing against
that's your reality.
That's your reality. Exactly. But it's also true that you can change your reality if you believe differently. If you think that being a person of color is something beautiful, and it's like, and then you start to reflect on some of the things that you can offer into this world. Not only is it not a hindrance, but it's a positive. And then you start to see it as that. And then you start to create that in your branding and in your marketing. And we see that because who we are buying things, like when we look at the consumer market, it's the mostly people of color and creatives that are like doing things that are pushing consumer culture forward and with innovation and a lot of really cool things. So we know that.
Drivers.
Yes, they are the cultural drivers. Yeah. Right. So so then everyone knows that. So why at the same time are we being told that, as Biden put it, at that same time Biden told Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club, if you ain't black, or if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Oh, yeah. Like, can you imagine the audacity to to pander to your audience and tell them like as if you're the black savior, right? Like that's what the left is always doing. They're positioning themselves as, and I fell for the Obama
he
stuff.
He said it though.
But like Obama, man, like I fell for that. Obama, I fell for that. And now I'm not saying Trump is better. I don't jump on again. If we start taking sides in politics and we don't realize that they're each a wing on the same bird, like we're not looking at who does that bird report to?
No, for sure.
We've got to be looking towards the top of that pyramid.
They're a piece of a greater system, greater picture.
And Illuminati is real. It's real.
Yeah.
Like, so.
What do you think, like, a lot of these events over the last, I don't know, you could go back farther than the last 2 or 3 years. But when you see people gravitate towards this tribal mentality or this pitted against each other, like everyone, like a lot of people are doing it. A lot of people get excited about it. A lot of people feel passionate about it. I mean, you can't really deny that there's a lot of activity or side choosing. What do you think, like, people are rooted in? Like, where does that come from for the common person? Like, why are they so excited or predisposed, you could say, to?
It's 100% psychological programming.
Yeah.
Because why? It only happens online. You're not seeing this shit in real life. Like if an event happens, yes. But if you go to the store, are you experiencing tribalism? Are you like if you're out in the world, it's because we have this like these matrix goggles. We put on once we put on that screen, our cell phone. Yeah, we're in the matrix again. And all that stuff that you're referring to. So there was a man named Edward Bernays. He was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is like the father of modern psychology. Yeah. What Edward Bernays did is he dissected all of the information from his uncle and he used it for marketing. So essentially what he came down to is that human beings are motivated by 3 drivers: guilt/shame, fear, and desire. Like, it's a lot more than that, but if I'm going to keep it really succinct, those are the 3 things that he knew that from a marketing and a perspective,
drive action,
every decision on our primal, most reptilian nature.
I'm with you. I get it. Yeah.
Okay, only that. Yeah. But like for those who are really like more of like when you look at like your chakra system, like your root chakra, most people live in the root. So those 3 things: shame, which is about the group. What does the group think of me? So group think,
how am I perceived by the world around me?
It has to do with ostracism and being. It has to do with survival. Because like in the if the group excommunicated you 1,000 years ago, you would be fending. You'd be off and eat. You'd be food for the bears, right?
Rooted in survival.
Yeah. So that's what the root chakra is. It's like so fear, shame, and desire, and so if that's why all of these like divine practices, not just religions, but spiritual practices, tell you to move up into the higher realms.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
like,
that is a lot
of it. To get to like the sacral, the solar plexus, then finally is the heart, which is of the material world, but also of the spiritual world. From there, you're not going to be moved like levers with those 3 levers. Like
I see what you're saying.
Desire, fear.
If you operate low in your root, you can be.
Then you will be manipulated by those 3 levers. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. Once you get higher, so it's heart, meaning like how you relate to other human beings and knowing that we're all connected and that there isn't this divisiveness. Once you've gone to that 4th one, you can feel that. Then the next one is your throat chakra, meaning you speak and hear truth and you're not easily manipulated by propaganda and that kind of thing. And the next one is your 3rd eye, which is the pineal gland, which is like your gateway to the higher realms and infinite intelligence. And you can really only get that by maintaining your seminal fluid and meditation. Those 2 things are what help you, like not beating off, not having, not ejaculating, and then meditation that helps do that. Now, all of the stuff they put in our food prevents that pineal gland from creating
that. You call
it
the calcifying.
And then finally is the crown. But going back to Edward Bernays, if you could keep people in that root chakra, thinking about survival, thinking about their own selfish desires, sex and popularity and fame and money and all that stuff, they're never going to understand their own divine greatness, right? You just got to keep them there. How do you keep them there? Keep lighting off those 3 things: shame, fear, desire. If you go on social media, every post is going to be tapping into one of those 3 things. Yeah. If not, it's just not going to be that popular. It's not going to go viral.
Viral formula for,
or funny. Like it could just be entertainment.
That's true.
But like, right. So on the lighter side, but right now what you're seeing is genocide. You're seeing like that those are the ideal things to like keep us in our hell. Like hell is, according to a lot of the wisdom teachers of millions, like thousands of years ago, hell is not some place you go to after death. It's being stuck in the root chakra. Hell is that's why it's red. On they color code them red, like hell is all in you are of the body, right? And so you identify with the body. So Now these occultists who run this whole world, they know this.
Yeah.
And so they are making sure that you do it. You do what we say, but not as we like. They don't behave in the way that they're instructing us to do it.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like, we are being taught to identify with the body. So this whole fixation about identity politics, like LGBT, and then now the list is getting longer and longer and longer. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. It's just that they're making you identify with things of the physical world. If you continue to identify with your body or things of the physical world, and you, like that woman was saying, you're a business owner. I don't identify as like, I identify as a creator, something that's in those higher energy centers, right? So like someone like this is not
almost like minimizes you.
Yes, it reduces me.
Yeah, reduces.
Yes,
that's the word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I'm the chess piece. I like to see myself as the chess player.
Yeah.
And this body here is an avatar, like a video game that I'm moving through the simulation.
Yeah.
Right. If you tell me that I'm whatever aspects of the avatar, that's not me. I'm up here controlling it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, it's funny. You kind of like inspired this thought talking about that of like, when you are reduced down to like a very simple identity, there's a lot of like yes, no, this or that. But if you're an alchemist, if you're a creator, if you're a magician, whatever it is, like there's a lot of like togetherness in those. There's a lot of commonality. There's a lot of like,
and imagine the power when you know that.
Yeah,
imagine the power when everyone understands that.
Yeah.
Essentially, you took the pyramid as we know it, that bottom heavy, and you flipped it upside down, and all that weight that comes down on the people who are in charge of us. Imagine if everyone knew what you just said. Yeah. And that's why they want to keep hitting those levers.
For sure.
Because
you're down there and you're just, I'm not that, and I'm nothing like that. But up there, you're like, oh, well, we got a lot of stuff we can do together.
Exactly. Once we know.
That's interesting.
Once you tap into who you if you had any fucking clue who you were, right? And then you could help other people like see it. Like our job isn't to awaken the masses. I never try to do that because who the fuck likes to be woken up? Right?
Let me sleep, baby.
Yeah, I let y'all sleep. Yeah. But when the sleeping people start issuing mandates on me, it's like what you're telling me is to go to sleep. I don't want to be asleep.
No.
Yeah. You know? And so like I want to talk about, my message goes to those who are already awake. And I'm not saying awake is a binary on-off switch. I am in a perpetual state of awakening.
Yeah.
It's to a degree.
That's a whole progression.
It's going to progress. It'll never end.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're all different places on our own paths, and it should not be compared. And anyone who acts like they're holier than thou because of that, and anyone who's trying to wake someone up isn't awake themselves.
I know. That's like, just you're better because you're awake. Like, all right,
all that new age spiritual stuff is bad news. But going back to Bernays, he ended up being the father of propaganda. So he wrote a book called Propaganda, and he wrote a book. And now propaganda, as he used the term, wasn't the negative term we use it today. Propaganda, as he defined it, was the way we spin information to the masses to create a reality for them that is best suited for them. So what he was trying to say,
not necessarily negative, but the intention is
So that's up for debate. It's like what he was. Now the people who got his stuff, and then like government started using his stuff, right? But like he was like his premise was that the general masses don't know what's good for them, and if we give them too much information, too much power, they could be harmful to themselves. It's like taking like a big gun and giving it to a kid. It's like they don't know how to use it; they could hurt themselves. So propaganda is good for the masses because we don't want them to know how much power they have, and we want. So his idea behind propaganda was presented as a positive. He's taking all of his Uncle Freud's secrets,
I got you.
and so then who got on it? The diamond company. They hired him to position blood diamonds as to sell it. So he came up with the idea to link it to marriage. Yeah. So he came up with the idea to link it to the engagement ring. He came up with the idea to do a campaign when the milk company and the pig farmers came to him and they wanted to sell more product. He came up with like how to make those things integral parts of the American breakfast. So it's like your American, again, identity. Yeah. Your American identity is tied to bacon and whenever like we would go to war and we'd have an influx of certain things and then the war would be over, you'd have all this surplus of all these, he would find like a use for that. Yeah. Right. And so, and he would spin it.
So just like how to package information in a way where it resonates.
I mean, even when Big Tobacco came to him and they asked him like, how do we increase our shares? He said, well, you've got 50% of the market that's not even touching it because it's taboo for women to smoke. How do we make it not taboo for women to smoke? So in the Macy's Day Parade, he had a bunch of like debutante, beautiful women have these long cigarettes with these holders that don't get their fingers smelling like smoke. And they called them freedom torches. No way. So they were an expression of like standing up to the man and freedom and women's empowerment. And then and these poor women were literally manipulated, just like with the vaccine. Whoa. They got manipulated into a propaganda machine.
That's a wild
right. And so and it's also it's helpful to have a slogan like these freedom torches or like do your part and all like every time they have a slogan and then they have like a physical thing like it's all part of the book.
Yeah.
Do you know who the owner of Netflix is? His last it's like Mark something.
I don't know. We can find it though.
It's
you'll be the first one to use our screen.
His last name is Bernays.
The owner of Netflix.
So what I'm telling you is Sigmund Freud came up with all this shit. Edward Bernays was the father of propaganda. The Nazis and all of them, they all use Edward Bernays' propaganda tools. Go to his great nephew, founded the big propaganda tool that we watch today every night, which is Netflix. It's not a coincidence that the person behind our biggest programming network, Netflix, is Edward Bernays' descendant.
Interesting. Jeez.
The rabbit hole goes deep.
Yeah, that's funny. That's heavy thinking about how that all connects.
And so like we're over here getting our information from the very place that's keeping us in these self-induced echo chambers. And like that's the last what I do is like if you tell me cancel that person, don't read their book, that book is off, that's who I'm gonna go read.
Run to it.
Whoever you tell me I
break
can't
that down.
That's how like and then who I avoid. The truth is if you have a vested in like in an age of not knowing who's telling the truth, if they're telling you not to listen to someone, listen to that person.
Yeah.
If they're trying to cancel someone, listen to what they have to say.
There might be something in there that would be worth considering. And then Jordan Peterson's a great example of that.
Yep. Yeah. Now, of course, he's like recently said some shit about like give them hell. He said give them. I don't know
how
much
he say something
about Israel about the genocide. I don't know how much truth there is to that. Yeah. Like maybe that was also, as you said, out of context. So I don't want to speak about something I don't know. But
someone who I guess the point with that is someone who really has some pretty thought-provoking information. Yeah. Now it's not always maybe packaged the best way.
No, it is. He's also extremely eloquent. Like he's one of the best speakers I've ever heard. Yeah. And like, people say that he's like the leader of the incels, right? And I think that's a really fucked up thing to say. It's like men right now really need a figure of like self-empowerment and not feel shame. And you want to call men incels and you want to like, the last thing you need is to just continue to like tear down men instead of building them up. That's a large reason why society's in this place. It's like no one can stand up without getting destroyed.
Yeah, you're like scared to just sort of like be true to your,
masculinity.
Masculinity,
it's not a bad thing. So it's like, so Jordan Peterson, I think he's an important voice. And like, I mean,
what was your like sort of, I don't know, maybe like your process or maybe some of the things that you felt like were impactful trying to get out of being so like in your root, like were there elements of that or things that you can highlight that felt impactful?
Yeah. So I would say there was a nagging voice in me that was like, get off social media. And because it's keeping you in your root.
That's such a big one. I mean, I'm with you on that too. And even it's like my world, but
so you gotta be
careful.
Yeah. I'm not saying get off of it. I'm saying it. Well, remember those three levers are always at play.
Yeah.
And that, then just don't be a reckless consumer swiper of those things, because it's programming your mind and you don't even know it.
I'm in and out, so like the seals.
Then do that.
Put it up, get it out.
Cool.
You know, like
then you're using it properly. You're not being used by it. So I would say one big way to stay in that route, which is to say in hell. Like, remember that point. It's like when you're in your route and you're thinking about the body, how you look. Like when I go to the gym now, I don't go to the gym because of how I look. I go because of how much energy it's going to give me and how I'm going to feel.
Oh yeah.
And so like tying it to that makes me want to go every day.
Yeah.
If I'm tying it to something that has to do with the external validation of someone else, that again, it's giving power to anything outside.
Yeah.
You're going to run out of motivation if that's the case.
Yeah.
And the same thing with your work.
Yeah.
If everything you post as a digital creator is about, we talked about this before we started recording, is about vanity metrics, your likes and your shares, you're going to run out of motivation.
Oh, for sure.
If it's about, dude, this was so hilarious, and it gets like a few hits, but it was just so fun to do. The energy that has cultivated is more valuable than the likes that it didn't cultivate. And that is a nice little snowball of spiritual energy that you can continue to reinvest.
Snowball.
Like if you could see, like if you could take mushrooms or like plant medicine, you could see that it is a spirit. Like there is a world that is not visible to the eyes, but it is that. And if you can see it, then you can harness that reality and you can use it. You know,
has plant medicine played a big role in some of this for you?
So to answer that other question is yes. So like getting on social media, and I'm not saying off of it. I'm just saying because, man,
or be very conscious of how you are interacting with it. Because
in a world where there's so much negative influence on social media, we need to add more positive drops in that bucket. So I don't think it's the best that we all get off of it. Plant medicine, yes. I'm not going to tell people they need to do plant medicine, although I will say that if more people did, the world would be like a lot more loving and peaceful. However, those people in charge are the ones who really need the plant medicine, and I don't see that happening. But like, it's been really, I don't do any drugs anymore. I don't drink any alcohol. Like I'm now no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing.
Wow.
And I'm on fire these days. Like, I feel amazing. I'm the happiest I've ever been.
Is plant medicine included in drugs for you, or is it considered?
It's done.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
but it was impactful to make a change.
Yeah.
But then
and that's how you know that something is awesome.
Yeah.
Because something is valuable. Because if the more you take, the more you need, then you're getting yourself in a very like a dangerous place. Like alcohol, the more you take, the more you need. Yeah. Right. But with mushrooms and like ayahuasca and all these like the more you take, the more it reveals you to yourself. And if you keep going back to it, then you're not listening to its instruction, right? It's like it's saying like, no, you got, like, it's like if I'm,
because there's a recreational version of those.
Yeah. So then that's different. You're doing, it depends on your objective. You want to do it to have fun, then it's like drinking to have fun. I'm not, who am I to tell you what to do? But I'm saying to commit, I would sit in some plant medicine ceremonies where this guy would come in like every month for like years. He's always coming in. And I'm not judging, but I'm saying like, if your kid comes to you for an allowance every week and you're trying to teach them how to run a business, how to sell lemonade on the corner, how to deliver newspapers, and they're like, no, I just want the allowance, right? It's like, that's how I feel like why ayahuasca spirit must feel. It's like, look, I'm showing you how
I gave you this already. You came back for more. What did you do with the last one?
Exactly. Like, bro, integrate me. Like, integrate what I've told you before you keep trying to pile on like knowledge that you're not actually processing. And so right now I'm in a mode of processing and I'm like writing. Whenever cool. I think I need to read something, I start to write. Writing is hard. And it's hard to start writing.
For sure.
Man, if you can, my big advice to people is like, write every morning for like, just make yourself do 3 minutes because it'll probably be 10 or 12.
Yeah.
It's the first 3 minutes, just write something.
Yeah.
Because what you are seeking in your social media consuming is waiting for you in the writing.
Oh, interesting.
I promise you. What you are looking for. Now, do you
prompt what you do, or do you just
both? I have this book that has some prompts and stuff.
Yeah.
But also just like whatever's coming to mind.
Dude,
the one big takeaway right now is what I just said. Say it again. What you are seeking in the outside world is the thing that you have yet to write, and you don't even know what it is. Even though you're the right, you don't.
Yeah,
it will come.
that's interesting.
It will come from that spirit world.
Yeah.
It will come through you. It'll come to the paper, and you're going like you might be overridden with emotion.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it will reveal something. There's something specific for you because that's waiting for you to come from you to you.
Yep.
And if you keep looking for it out there, those people who are just like casting out content for the millions of people. No, this thing was created for an audience of one.
Yeah.
This was a custom made piece of
That's
information
right.
that's just for you.
Yeah.
And you're not, and that faucet of like ingenuity and creativity, it's open. But if you dam up the faucet by refusing to write, that faucet will eventually close.
Yeah.
Like if you have to keep the plumbing open, otherwise that inspiration will stop.
Interesting.
I assure you. And watch what happens.
I like the simplicity of that. Like it's very raw. You don't have to dress it up.
No.
Yeah.
It's not for anyone. But this is the paradox. When you create not for an audience, that's the rawest, truest, right? It's the highest quality creation you can take.
Oh, for sure.
And then what? The paradox is that you won't wait. You can't be able to wait to put it out on social media. And like but it's this sacred
You're so excited
thing
about it.
It's so good. But if you did it because for vanity metrics,
all the other things come in. Is it gonna go well?
Right.
Are they gonna like it?
So that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key. The key is to create for a non-audience. You create selfishly for you.
Yep.
That's the best content. And then if you want to bring it up, give it to the masses, you can shape it, wrap it, whatever. But at least have your own selfish thing. I realized that, man, like I was oversharing on social media.
Yeah.
And like that's a metric that's a sign of low self-worth in my opinion. Like if you are always like, you have to have such high regard for yourself that you're discerning about who gets access to your thoughts and your important, it's like, you can't think that you're so unimportant that like just anyone, don't give to the world what you are not willing for them to destroy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right? Like if you've got a partner, like a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, that's so important to you and you just keep putting her all over social media.
Yeah.
Like don't give that out if you're not willing to see it destroyed.
Yeah.
Like
that's almost like investment, advice where it's like, don't invest what you can't lose.
Exactly.
Like,
don't put anything out there that you don't wish to be consumed and taken from somebody else.
Because then you release all power over any,
I don't want you consuming my partner. I don't want you consuming my deepest, most sacred views.
Yeah.
However, I want you consuming the food I serve at Raleigh Raw, so I have a social media. I want you consuming some ideas that might change the culture in a positive way.
Yeah.
I want you to consume that, so I'm going to put that out. So like, see how differently I'm now discerning versus using it as a therapeutic sounding board. And it's just like,
I get that.
Dude,
that's strong, man. I love that. Dude, I want to pull up one of those, or did we figure out the Netflix thing?
Like the founder of Netflix.
Who's this dude? Hastings?
So I bet you his last name is Bernays and they just chopped it off. Like, can you find that out?
Bernays? Maybe Google Netflix Bernays?
I think it's Reed Hastings. I bet you it's Reed Hastings Bernays, and then they don't want people to know, and then they're not showing it.
That would be insane if that's true, bro.
Wow, let's find out.
That would throw me off heavy.
Oh, Mark Randolph. That was him. Mark Randolph. Mark Bernays Randolph. Yep.
What?
Yep. And he's the founder of Netflix, right? Does it say that somewhere?
Yeah. No, so Mark Bernays Randolph is an American tech entrepreneur advisor, co-founder and first CEO of Netflix.
Yep. He's now look at
Macworld, Micro Warehouse.
And then go to Edward Bernays so you can see who that
Randolph was born to a Jewish family in Chappaqua, New York, the eldest child of Stephen Bernays Randolph, an Austrian-born.
And Edward Bernays. And then who is he?
He was an American pioneer in the field of public relations and propaganda and referred to in his obituary as the father of public relations. He's best known in 1929 effort to promote female smoking by branding cigarettes as feminist torches of freedom, and his work for the United Fruit Company in the 1950s connected with the CIA orchestrated overthrow of the democratically elected Guatemalan government in 1954. He works for dozens of major American corporations, Procter & Gamble. That is fucking insane.
And then
what? What's
Sigmund
this?
Freud,
Citing works of Sigmund Freud.
No,
Go back to that because he might be.
That line there. Skilled practitioners could use
crowd
crowd
psychology.
psychology and psychoanalysis to control.
Oh yeah, so he outlined how
Desired
skilled
ways.
practitioners could
Yes.
use crowd psychology and
In
psychoanalysis
to control in
them
desired ways. That's the important part.
Whoa.
So everything that you experienced through COVID
Yep.
was from the rule book that Edward Bernays wrote.
Citing works of writers such as Gustav Le Bon, Wilfred Trotter, Walter Lippmann, and Sigmund Freud, his own double uncle. He described what you just said.
That's how I knew that COVID was a hoax from the jump.
Yo. And this dude is one of the guys who created Netflix. It's almost like he created just a lineage of people who were just information savages. And they're just like, just give me something and I'm going to just,
The whole, like, you know, it's now coming out. And I'm not saying anything about, I'm a Semite myself. I was born like a mile away from Gaza.
And moving a little closer to that one.
But it's like they have, and let's take a positive page talking about what would happen if we did what they're doing, like where we team up with each other and we co-create things, right?
Yeah.
And like the way the Jews are mostly the people who are in charge of all these organizations. It's just a fact. It's not a complaint. It's a fact. If you look it up, that's who owns BlackRock, who owns everything else. And like, what are they doing right? I'll tell you, like, they're not fighting over dumb shit like little beta fish. You know?
They're friendly goldfish with each other. Exactly. They like to jam with each other.
They're the whales.
They're the whales. Dude, you blew my mind with that one. Dang, I'm gonna be thinking about the night before I go to sleep and just very depressed.
No, but I mean, it's like propaganda is a real, it's used to make money off of you. It's used to, so like, just know. Yeah. And if someone in your community is like, if people are warning you again, like, here's how you know you're on the wrong side when you're not sure. If you are forcing someone else to do something.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Because 50% is, and that the right sometimes is forcing people, and then sometimes the left is.
I was gonna say, even just like if you get to the point where you feel like you're looking for a reason not to like someone as a person to just like trying to understand someone. Yeah. We come into like, I don't know, back to the digital conversation, just like there's a lot of I don't like you because of this, or I don't like that person because of that. When it's like, well, what else are they saying that might actually be kind of fascinating? Because you're priming, like if I was thinking that before coming in here today, I would be priming myself. And then the conversation would result. And because that's a real thing. We are creators. We create our reality with our thoughts. Like it, like the Hermetics, which are like ancient Egyptian, like they believed that God is mind. Like God is mind. God created everything that is in creation from a thought, and that you, being a fraction, a fragment of that, can do the same thing. So every single thing you do is mind. It's creation. So you think about it first, and then it becomes a thing. And so if you don't like this is what they would argue. If you don't like your current thoughts, don't fight them. Deploy their opposite. So like, if you don't like fear, don't fight your fear. Instead, start thinking about expanding your courage. Ooh, okay. Because lean into the opposite as opposed to like embracing the. You have to lean into the opposite rather like if you're like on a pull-up bar, you're like it's not that. It's like be pro the thing you want, not anti the thing you don't. This is a law of nature. So like the Hermetics. Hermes was like, I like this. And so they rebranded Hermes as like the Greeks called him Hermes and the Egyptians called him Thought. So he Thot, right? Yeah. So he's like, this was like the god of wisdom. Yep. Right. All of his books and was the Emerald Tablets. That's him. Like all of that game came from him. What happened is they put all of them in. I'm from Alexandria, Egypt. Okay. That's where I'm was born. They put all of these books in the Alexandria, Egypt library.
and the Catholic Church burned down the library. Yeah. But what it had was like these ideas of like these natural laws of how the universe works. Okay. Right. Yeah. And so there's like 7 principles, and that was one of them. And then and like one of them was like the so it's doing the opposite. Like so that was one, and the other is like the law of gender. Okay. So the law of gender is that there is male and female in everything. Yeah. And you have to understand like the male and the female, and not just sexually, but like you have to understand that. So what happens?
More of an energy conversation than necessarily like a sexual conversation?
Yes. And understanding that both of those things are always in interplay. And when you bring them in balance, then there's harmony. Okay. So it's no coincidence that this gender confusion is used as a strategy to keep people down again, right? So it's like what the people who are in power done, they took the Emerald Tablets and all this wisdom, they keep it in the Vatican, right? So the Vatican has all this wisdom.
For sure.
And so along with a bunch the Zionists and the Vatican, all these people, they have all this stuff. And so essentially there is a ladder to get to the creator, to our highest divinity. Yep. They've cut 4 or 5 rungs out of the ladder. So you can worship your religion, but you're never going to get there because they took the important parts. Yeah. Those important parts are that God is not an externalized being. That's what we need to know. Yeah. And they want you thinking that it is, so you're on a wild goose chase, never understanding your own power. God is you've been created out of the thought of God, the mind of God, and you can do the same when you tap into that. If you get out of the root, you get out of hell, you come up higher, and you can see. So like those laws are like the law of gender was one of them. Yeah. The law of
what are they called? It's called the Emerald Tablets.
Yeah. So those are like the law. Like what are the 7 hermetic principles?
7
hermetic principles. And so and another one would be
I'm impressed you got these.
The law of compensation.
Okay.
So the law of compensation says if you indulge in something like Diddy, there.
Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. The Hermetic philosophy outlines 7 universal principles.
So this is like in a book called the Kabbalion. Yeah. Like these are the real keys to the Philosopher's Stone. This is the secrets, right? And like no one talks about them.
No,
this is what was
I don't even know if I've heard of this before.
So like this is where people have taken their new age spins off of like the law of attraction and all that stuff. Yeah. But like the law of correspondence says like if I push towards you, you'll pull away. Okay. If I pull away, you'll push towards me. So it's like if there's this thing that's here. Yeah. Watch what happens. If I really want to push it here, what happens? Yeah. It's gonna go back up more than I pushed it. It's not gonna come to center. It's gonna go more. Right?
Like overcompensates.
Yeah. So that's the law of correspondence. And so like if I see a girl and I really like her and I come on really strong, what's she gonna do? Oh yeah. She's gonna pull away. Yeah. But what if I see a girl and I play like, I'm like being like brushing her off, flirting, like letting her know like, hey, you're coming on too strong.
Well, some girls are like, I didn't like him anyway, so like get out of here. But
true. But
I see what you're saying.
But like you pull away, they come, right? You push, they go. And that's literally so understanding these, and that's not just about that. It's also about like when I make money, my goal. Right? What am I going to do? Push it away. Yeah. From chasing money, I'm pushing it away.
Yeah.
And that's the law of correspondence, corresponding to your behavior.
For sure.
If you're chasing it, it must run, right? It's being chased. So it has to correspond to your behavior.
When you say it like that,
that's
it's like,
the law of correspondence. The money is responding to your behavior, which is chasing. It's going to respond.
For sure.
Right? And so like and so they don't want you knowing this, right? They're like, be a hustler. Yeah. But like, then you're going to be violating natural laws of the universe, right?
So he wrote these just as like general, these principles to live life off of, basically.
And that everyone would have to go to a school and the students would learn this, but he would say, we don't cast pearls before swine, meaning like this stuff wasn't meant to be given to the masses because to the point that Bernays said, like the masses aren't equipped to do with this power. It's too powerful. So the the idea was when the student is ready, the learnings will appear. So these learnings will only appear to those who have a sincere desire for this wisdom, and will meet this wisdom with reverence, like respect and reverence and humility. Like, because if you understand, which I am internalizing these all the time, and there's not stuff I go put out on and I show off with my Instagram posts about all this stuff I know. It's like, it's so important that like I put it to practice. And when I have an argument or a disagreement with somebody, I look and I go and I examine how I violated these natural laws, and I find it.
Interesting.
I did. And so I can see it. They hold me accountable. Yeah. Right.
What did like, because you were hosting some of those, conscious conversations. The conscious conversations.
So we would I never taught that, but we would have these types of talks all the time. Yeah. It was the most fulfilling time in my life. It was for 2 years. I taught a class of 110 people, and it was always a full house until COVID came and we had to move it online. It wasn't the same energetically because of the law of vibration. The law of vibration.
I say the same thing with the podcast, though. It's so different when you're remotely versus in person.
That's what that means. There was a vibration. Everything is vibrating. And
so much more engaged.
And the law of vibration also says, like, when something is truly sacred, it's vibrating so fast it appears still, like a hummingbird. A hummingbird. It's like God, the most sacred energy is vibrating, and you could feel when you come in a room, you're like, whoa, this like right?
Something's going on.
And that's what we had with those talks, man. Those are cool. It was like channeled, like again, like when I was talking about when you write, something comes through you. Whenever I get on the mic and like start talking about, I'm a very introverted person. You can't tell until when you put a mic in front of me. I just keep going, but like, there's something about that. It's like it turns the faucet on that I was telling you.
For sure, and you open up that stream, it just keeps coming.
Exactly.
That's awesome. What were you doing to like? I mean, just getting information like this seems like something that is so. You have to be very intentional about it.
Well, that's the thing about. I'm so glad you said that. The opposite of that is what we're seeing on modernity, right? Like modern times, you're not intentional about the information. You literally are unconsciously scrolling, and you're fed whatever. It's like if you just put a whole bunch of cupcakes and tacos and everything on, and I'm just like, right? Like that's how we're approaching.
Although that sounds pretty good. Can we place it in order?
Can we pause right quick? But what they would argue is that the best wisdom was reserved for the most eager seekers.
Got you. Yeah.
Right. And so again, like I'm going after the books. If you burned stuff in the Egyptian library, the first thing I'm gonna Google is like what were the type of things that were, you know, and I'm
that's a great example. That's a great example. Yeah. Run to
that stuff. Right. Like with the whole Zionism thing, like what was it, the prodigals of Zion?
Dude, you're like, pulling stuff out I've never even heard of before, but it's fascinating.
Like it's like the playbook of what the Zionists plan to do. Okay, it was written and they took it, like you can't, like it's no longer available on Amazon or anything. But like I found a copy and I downloaded it and I just read it, and it's literally everything that they've done, that Zionists have done to Palestine and the Middle East. It was planned like in the 1800s. And you can see it all played out. Yeah, like it was like a 100-year plan, and it was, wow, it's all there. Yeah, it's crazy. Man,
there's been like some Joe Rogan episodes where he's talked about like the Russian plan for like disseminating like chaos and misinformation in the United States, and it's like there is like, I think he came over from the KGB,
yeah, I saw that interview,
and it's just kind of wild that there have been, or like the "if I was the devil, what I would do" was from another guy, and like
I've seen it.
Just what they're saying is like, oh wow, there's definitely like theories that have been theories or plans that have been followed through.
Culture. Yeah, everything about our culture now has to do with everyone over indexes on the external. Like it's the exact opposite of what our state motto actually says, which is to be rather than to seem. Yeah, like what we're doing now is a motto of to seem rather than to be. Everything is the opposite. Everything is about optics. Everything is about image. Everything is about
everyone can be a superstar on their own.
Yeah, exactly. And like to me, I was like, And if I really believe that, and I know that that's wrong in the world, I needed to kick those legs out from under any like attention I'm getting on social, like go hide for a couple years and really keep building my own character and my discipline and my wealth and my asset protection, all that stuff, and then come back.
Dude, later. It's strong, man. I love having that conversation with people like you. I mean, even like G went through a whole process like that, you know, of like sort of taking a step back and being like, what does the reset look like? Like, what does sort of like resetting the intention look like?
Everyone should be doing that.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Here's a question. If social media, if you knew social media would have all these down characteristics, would you still start it now or not?
Ooh, that's interesting. Would I still create social media if I knew what was going to happen with social media?
If you knew Instagram, if you knew that it was going to have all of these negative repercussions, I guess the answer would be yes because of all of the positives.
Yeah, because in a you know, for all of my like, I guess frustration with the platforms, in a way, like
it gives you reach. It gives you reach you could never have without it, right? Yeah.
And it's definitely like become, I think, a big wrench in like, now there's been, you know, canceling, there's been demonetization, there's been the whole like sort of silencing of people's profiles. But like, I don't know, I get excited when I see someone like Elon Musk come into the equation and say, we need this to be like a open forum. We need the town square in today's world because we don't have the town square. Well, we're not all in downtown. We're not on Fayetteville Street being like, yo, like, what did you think about the riots? Or like, you know what I'm saying? It's not, we don't do that. Yes. We don't talk about it.
If you're
maybe we should though. I don't know. Maybe we'll open up town square.
I would love that. That's what I did. That's what Conscious Conversations was. It was like you can't silence us because it's live, right? But like the problem is social media or social creatures. We believe in social proof, which is the more people believe the more popular something gets, the more we believe it to be true, right? So then if you're speaking truth and it gets demonetized or deplatformed or censored, then you're not going to build social proof. And so now it's unfair because the people who are screaming the lies get thrown to the top and the people doing the talking the truth, it gets pushed down. And so it looks like we are spreading misinformation because we have no social proof because we've been handicapped. It's like
and there's like that element of like, unless you get to breakthrough capacity, breakthrough reach, where you've got some
tipping point.
I don't know what that is. Maybe it's 1 million, maybe it's 100, whatever it is. Until you get there, you've really got to like mind, like, I mean, honestly, unfortunately, mind your P's and Q's in terms of like what's put on what platform. Because like YouTube might just give you like the cold shoulder, but then someone like Spotify or someone like Twitter may be like, hey, come whatever you've got. So
and I mean, I'm an advantage. I can always speak the truth. I get canceled every few years, but I don't have a boss. So no one can tell me to shut up. I don't even have a board of directors. I don't even have business partners who can tell me that I'm going to hurt their business if I keep talking. I don't even have a landlord. Like I'm at the top of my own mountain. And I don't have a social media presence. It's not like I have a million followers who are going to leave. Like I don't care about my social media. I am so unencumbered by any of these things that I'm in a unique position to speak the truth.
For sure.
And I don't experience any repercussions. Even someone who could listen to this right now and be like, oh yeah, well, we're going to cancel your business. Even worst case scenario, if the business goes out of business, okay, then I'll go to I'm a dual citizen. I go to another country, doesn't matter. Like I'm good. Like you
come
like,
at me, bro.
Like,
I'm good.
There's nothing you could take from me unless I willingly give it to you.
And you almost have to get to the point where you are in that position of power and like capability to, and not everyone has to put out information. I guess that's the other thing too. Like, but if you do and you want to come at it genuinely, you kind of need to be in a place where there's no puppet strings, you know, there's no.
What you just said, I think should be the goal of everybody. Whether or not they plan to be truth tellers, you're going to be a truth teller in your own life. If you're going to do it at scale to 1 million people or to the 3 or 4 people you come in contact with that day, to the degree that you've cut those puppet strings that you were referring to is to the degree that you can have the most authentic integrity when you speak. And so you have to, your primary objective as a human being should be sovereignty and freedom and self-reliance and courage.
Yeah.
Sovereignty, freedom, self-reliance, and courage. That should be your primary objective, no matter what. And you take that and you fuse that into your work. You infuse that into your family. You infuse that into the words you speak.
Yeah.
And then if they try to come for you, it's cool because you can always land on the soft pad of sovereignty and freedom and self-reliance and courage.
Yeah.
As long as you have that, no one can take anything from you.
Yeah.
And so like when I went in my rabbit hole the last couple of years, they canceled me. I had to say I'm sorry, in like, not because I felt bad for what I said, but because I made a statement that was all encompassing of my staff. And apparently my staff disagreed with me. They put out a comment, they put out a post that said, we do not believe in Sherif and his handling of the pandemic. So I said to them after they posted that, so you guys are saying we should discriminate against customers who are not vaccinated? And they're like, some of them were like, yeah. And you think we should make people wear masks? Some of them were like, yeah. So I asked everyone to quit who felt that way. So I terminated / facilitated the voluntary resignation of everyone.
Yeah.
20 out of 22 people left.
Really?
I was left with 2.
Dang, I didn't realize that.
I mean, I fired half of them and then the other half quit.
Dang.
And then, so it looked...
Did that feel like the most intense sort of backlash out of the whole situation?
Because it looked like I was the dictator.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, that's what propaganda does.
Yeah.
It makes your friend look like your enemy and your enemy look like your friend. And that's exactly what was happening. And I was the only one who could see it. Now, I could be patient and wait for them to come around, because now you can look in retrospect. Yeah. It's been a couple of years. You can see that it was propaganda.
Have there been any like follow-ups on those situation?
There's people who've come onto my page and deleted their nasty comments. Yeah. But I've never gotten an apology.
Interesting.
But I don't want an apology. Yeah. It's like, again, you speak the truth for the truth's sake. Yeah. Right. And what was important to me is that if we're going to be a holistic business, we can't just do it when it's trendy and then abandon our values whenever shit gets hairy. Yeah. Like, your values aren't the thing that you abandon in a crisis. Those are the things you double down on in a crisis. It's actually the reason you have values, because when you get disoriented and somebody's telling you need to do this and you're mandated to do that, you need to land on a North Star so you can get an idea of where you are, and your values are your North Star. Yeah. And so, like I said, sovereignty, freedom, self-reliance, like nature, right? Nature are my value. Like, that's the values connection. Yeah. Right. It's, if conscious consumption and human connection are Raleigh Ross 2 values, well, putting some experiment in your body is not conscious consumption, and telling people they can't come in unless they do something is not human connection. So we're blatantly violating our values in the name of some propaganda machine. So you can put me out of business, but you can't tell me how to do business differently. Yeah. I'm cool if you cancel me. I'll just close and go to a town or a country that wants this type of business and shares my values. Yeah. Like,
was rebuilding tough?
It was slow.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm in it for the long game. And
I know. I'm like,
here's the thing.
From the outside looking in,
you couldn't see any of it because I didn't put any. That's why I stopped airing it out. Yeah. Because my big thing was this: who am I to tell the community that they shouldn't be, stuff about vaccines and holistic, when my own staff doesn't see how I have no business leading on a scale if I can't even lead my own house. Yeah, I get that. If there's so much friction going on in my own business that my business can say about its leader, we don't believe what he believes, then I have so much dysfunction in my own business that I need to cancel my classes for the community. I like,
that's
to
a good
me,
point. Yeah.
To me, it was my own sanction. I sanctioned myself. I'm like, you can't be teaching people if you can't even get your own house right. Dude. So I cleaned the house.
I mean, I commend being able to be that conscious of like, oh, I can't be out here spreading, or I've got to get my stuff. I got to get my house in order before I go try to like.
Now, if you were to say any of that stuff, like, you'd never see my staff. They ride for me because they see how much I ride for them. Like, now it's just family. We are so tight. Now we're not doing all the social media stuff. Like, we went and had this amazing event. Like our Christmas party a couple weeks ago.
I heard about that from in the shop.
Yeah, I heard about zero posts on social media. It wasn't for public consumption. Before I used to be like, look at how much fun we're having. Yeah. Now we went and we had a blast and no one saw any of it. Like, we're privately having an amazing time. And like I was saying earlier, if you keep whatever you keep putting out to the mass, they'll destroy it.
Yeah.
And like my relationship with my staff now is so sacred that like it doesn't need to be for public consumption and like all that stuff. And now we just put products up, right? But like our relationship is like it's ours.
Man, that's beautiful, dude. I feel like I've got so much to digest on this. It's so fun, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming out and doing it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the invite.
I have to put it on the airwaves. I've told this before, but the CBJ Time is the best smoothie in the greater triangle, if not North Carolina. Dude, so I had to throw that in.
Thank you, man.
But yeah, I mean, do you want to put out where people can like check in with you at, or?
Yeah. So,
I mean, Raleigh Raw for sure. Like,
you gotta come experience. In the spirit of like being more physical than social, then come to Raleigh Raw instead of hitting us up. But if you hit us up, it's at Raleigh Raw. Yeah. It's that easy. Also, we're having there's a musician, one of my favorite singers, his name is Brendan James. And I was lucky enough to get him on the phone and pay him to come do a Tiny Desk performance.
Yeah, I saw that. Man, I meant to ask you about that.
So it's only 80 seats, and I think I probably have like 25 left.
Okay.
So if there's anybody who wants to go there, it's like you go to RaleighRaw.com and you see it. There's a link there on a drop down to buy the tickets. Yeah. And then we'll do like an hour cocktail hour with alcoholic and non-alcoholic cocktails beforehand. Then go upstairs to the studio where I have conscious conversations. We'll have this private show. It's not dancing. Everyone will be seated, and you can bring kids. It's like elderly, like my parents are like in their 80s, they're coming. My brother's bringing his girls who are under 10 years old, so it's an all ages type thing. There's no dancing. Everyone's gonna be seated in seats, so be chill. And then like a little cocktail hour before, and then also the shop will be open while the music's going on. So if like kids want to go down and just hang out on an iPad or something, that's all set up. So
that's is that the first show? That's the first.
So it's also my birthday that day. Nice. But that's not like we're doing it just because we want to get people connecting 2019 style.
That's awesome, man. Dude, well, thank you so much for coming out. We'll have to do it again, brother. That was awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Peace, everybody.